Hello, my name is Vincent Gaetano, and welcome back to the channel. What I'd like to do in this video is kind of to coincide with a blog post that I just made, which I'll link in the description. I'd like to basically talk about a ritual, a reworking of a ritual that I have written that it does a lot of things. Not only is it a good example of the art of Sinistra Arcana as I have defined it and practice it, which is the art of sinister magic, the magic of sinistrism, but it also is just a good ritual in general, just for any practitioner of the left-hand path, but also as a little third kind of aspect and angle. It also is a really good example of how the sinisterist and the sinister tradition would aim to rewrite older, more non-useful to a left-hand path practitioner ritual and make it useful to them. And so I say all this to say what I'm going to be doing in this video is basically sharing with you my version of the lesser ritual of the pentagram. Now, if you're in any way familiar with Western occultism, you're going to be familiar with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Now, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, for short, the Golden Dawn, was a Hermetic order, obviously, and they basically started in the later, a lot later, I think, later 1800s, and what I'm gonna do right now is kind of explain how the process of interpretation works within the sinister current, within sinister magic. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn are not Christian in the literal sense, meaning no Christian would look at what they do and approve of it. They would look at it as pagan, they would look at it as witchcrafty, they would look at it as being certainly not appropriate within the context of Christianity. But let's be honest, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn are not a left-hand path order. They are very much still based within a lot of Christian thought. However, this is where the process starts. I like a lot of what they have to bring to the table. They are very influential to Western ceremonial magic. They're very important in the context of ritualism and Western occultism. So now there's this dichotomy of, well, I like one part of them and what they represent and what they've presented, but I'm not really liking this part. And that brings us into the lesser ritual of the pentagram. So the lesser ritual of the pentagram is in two forms. It's the lesser and then the greater ritual. The lesser ritual is basically a ritual to banish. It's called the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And it's to banish any, you could say, residual forces left over from the previous ritual. So let's say, from the context of a left-hand path practitioner, I do a ritual, I don't know, summoning, invoking Shiva or something like that. And then, now I personally wouldn't do this because in my own practices, I do a dismissal at the end of my rituals when I'm working with a particular daemon or being, where I, symbolically or literally, whatever you believe, banish the force. And banishing is harsh of a word, because banishing makes it seem like it's like you're sending it away, whereas on the left-hand path, we're dismissing it. We're saying, thank you in whatever form we believe this being to particularly manifest in. We're kind of thanking it and kind of sending it on its way. It's not really a harsh, like, fuck off kind of a thing. It's just the ritual has ended. The rite is over, and now we're departing the being. So I wouldn't really practice it in that way, but that's what it's for. And then there's the invoking form, which is basically and essentially invoking elemental energies, so fire, water, air, earth, and then spirit. And of course, on the left-hand path, the spirit to me is the self. So I should have mentioned this on the blog. I'm still relatively new at writing blog posts. I'm a lot more comfortable orally presenting things. But the spirit, a part of the element, is really the self, the Satan, the adversary, and however you want to look at that too, because it's all, it's based in interpretation. So what the sinister version of this ritual aims to do is to call upon, basically take the structure of the original ritual as practiced by Aleister Crowley in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and basically bring it in a context that it flows with the sinister current. So in the original ritual, the practitioner calls upon, 4 names that are basically God forms, and the God forms are directly related to the Hebraic God. So Adonai is the big one that's mentioned. I don't even care really, but like Yod-Hey, Vod-Hey, or whatever it is, stuff that, names that for a left-hand path practitioner are meaningless, they're degrading to use, and they're just useless. So again, here's that kind of that challenge of the sinister kind of current coming through. I like the structure, but I don't like the names being used. And so what I decided to do is create my own version that can please me and hopefully some of you, but also it doesn't really stray too far away from the original structure and the original kind of focal point of the ritual. So, without further ado, I'd like to get into this, and I'd like to just kind of show you my way of practicing this ritual. It's a very simple ritual. For a beginner practitioner of Sinisterism, I would say it's a great starting ritual. It's not the best starting ritual, but it's a great starting ritual. I will do a starting rite soon on the blog and on the YouTube channel. But it essentially aligns you with the adversary, and it also, which is a very basic concept within Sinisterism, but it also aligns you within the elements, which are very, not only paramount in Western occultism, and the elements are a very powerful part of Western occultism. It's a classic association. It's also kind of bringing in the infernal and the satanic and the dark, and it's challenging the practitioner to align themselves with a force that most run away from and they have no interest in. So, let's get started. So, real quick, just as a basic kind of preliminary thing, make sure that your altar that you're ritualizing at is comfortable for you. Make sure that whatever tools you are using are comfortably reachable. Make sure that you're not going to get interrupted. All those basic things that you want to make sure before conducting a ritual. So, ritual of the adversarial pentagram, ritual of the inverted pentagram, however you'd like to term it. You could pretty much name it however you'd like. Step 1. Ring bell as many times as desired/needed to produce and kind of achieve a meditative effect. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm actually going to go grab my bell. And I'm just going to kind of just show you as an example how this would be done. And this is actually how I'm going to do, I just decided right now, this is actually how I'm going to explain every ritual. I'm going to really kind of walk you through it so that you can understand the basics of it, but that you can add your own formula. That's the important thing, that these videos are technique videos, meaning they are videos showing you how something like this is done, not what to do. So you take this video and you go, well, yeah, I really like that ritual, and I'm sure many people will be, because this is already a pre-established ritual, I'm sure many people will be totally content to just do it as I'm saying it. But always remember that this is a formula video. It's kind of like when someone makes like a cooking video or something like that, and they say that, it's a technique video, not an ingredient video, not a recipe video. So they're not telling you what to put in it, they're just telling you how to get the best results physically, and that's important. So, you ring the bell as many times as desired/needed to get a meditative effect. So I have a little small bell here. I plan on buying a bigger one, but I bought this when I was a bit low on funds, and I just kind of needed a bell, and I like it a lot. You see what kind of effect that has? It kind of draws your attention into the sound, and it's a physical motion that brings out this sound, and it's a very, very good start to a ritual, and I personally do it in most of my workings. So I'm going to set that right there. So you do that for as many times as you feel necessary until you feel calm and relaxed. Step 2. Place your hand on your head, your body, and your genitals, respectively, while vibrating "Hail my mind" on your chest, or wherever you prefer. I put it on my heart, my chest. "Hail my body." Oh, excuse me, I apologize. "Hail my soul." And then you put it on your genitals and you say, "Hail my body." Now, what this is doing, and you also do this as many times as you feel necessary, as many times as you feel is satisfactory. What this is doing is it is aligning yourself with the fact that you are the Sinistrist, is even more so than the Satanist, even more so than the Luciferian, is aligning yourself with the fact that you are the keys and you are the gates. That's the words of the sinister aeon. That's the words of the sinister path. You are the keys and you are the gate. You open the doors, you close the doors. You build the doors, you build down the doors. What you see through your eyes is, if I look at the greater or lesser ritual of the pentagram, or greater, and I see something that can be used, I don't go, oh, well, yeah, that's part of Hermeticism, and that doesn't really fit my left-hand path view. No, I look at that, and I say, if this exists in the world, that is mine to take and to reinterpret it in my light, in my eyes. I'm going to take this and I'm going to rebuild it in a way that I make use of it. And this whole ritual, despite being a useful ritual, despite having an actual practical purpose of aligning yourself with the elemental forces of the adversary, is also, it's kind of like, my plan, so to speak, of getting you to understand, to getting the Sinistra to understand that the art of Sinistra Arcana is to align you with this fact that you are the keys and you are the gates. Utterly, wholly, and all-encompassingly. So, again, hand on head, you say, "Hail my mind." Hands on chest, you say, "Hail my soul." Hail my being. Hail myself, whatever word you prefer. And then on genitals and say, "Hail my body." Step 3. With chalice and or dagger or sword in hand. So as an example, I have my ritual dagger that I use personally. I have a nice sheath for it. Now this was given to me as a gift, so it has a bit of a sentimental feeling. And you take this and you essentially, now again, you don't need to use the cup. So, I'm going to explain these tools, but then I'm also going to explain why you don't need to use all of them and you could do the ritual without them. But as far as my version goes, you have the dagger and the sword, and you have the chalice. Now, a chalice can be any cup that holds liquid, of course. So I say chalice, but cup, chalice. This is mine, and I'll just let you get a quick look at that. As you can see, there's the sigil of Baphomet there, one of the best icons, symbols, sigils of the adversary. And then you see a very nice depiction of kind of like the horned god with angel wings, so that kind of Lucifer association. And then there's the double snake on the base of the cup, and etc., etc. So this is just something that I bought because I wanted it. It looked nice, and I thought I could make use of it. And you basically, with chalice and dagger, chalice and dagger in hand, you trace an inverted pentagram in each direction, corresponding with the elements. So, this is where the customization comes in. So, the names that I use to represent the elements and the quarters are Satan for the south, and he represents fire. Lucifer as the east, representing air. Belial in the north, representing earth. And Leviathan in the west, representing water. Now, those 4 names are very, very classic associations. They're called the 4 crowned princes of hell, and they actually originate from the book of Abramelin the Mage, which is a grimoire in the very old Western tradition. And there's a part that I will talk about later on in this channel, but there's a part that mentions the demonic hierarchy and the 4 crown princes of hell, all that. They'll say Lucifer, Belial, and Leviathan. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, and in that book, he takes that hierarchy and he basically combines it with the Western ceremonial occultism tradition of basically assigning a being, a force, a name to each quarter of the compass and assigning it to a element. So LeVay was kind of exercising a bit of sinister processes as well, because he took something that was already established and kind of added his own little flair to it. And so I really like that association. It's a classic Western ceremonial association. It's something that just works for me. But I want to make it clear that, and I specify this in the blog, any name can be used. Any name. As long as it corresponds with the elements and it works within the process of the ritual, then it's okay. Any name may be used as long as it fits the context. So what you do, you have the dagger in one hand, you have the cup or chalice in one hand, you face the direction, and it really doesn't matter which direction you start, it doesn't matter, and you trace an inverted pentagram. Doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter, you just do it. It's about the imagination. And you visually, in your head, see the pentagram being drawn. And in terms of which order you go, I personally go Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan. That's what I do. But again, you do it any way that resonates with you. And you trace the pentagram. And as you're tracing it, you're seeing it in your head. And you're viewing it as you're drawing it. And you're utterly letting yourself be swept up into this metaphysical experience. And after you trace it, the traditional thing is to stick the blade in the middle of it and give the sign of silence. Now, I don't do that. I'm not gonna tell you to do that. I've never liked that. So, I'm gonna, as the sinister current would dictate, mold that to my own way. You hold the dagger in the middle of the pentagram, and you invoke the being. So, you can write them down if you would like. You can improvise them as you're doing it. And you go like that, and just in this example, I would say, Almighty Satan, I invoke the great adversary of flame, and of fire, and of passion. Bring me the might and force of rebelliousness, will, and strength. Hail, Satan. And you drink from the cup. Now you want to make sure that there's enough liquid in the chalice to basically get enough liquid for each invocation. You draw a connective line from the one pentagram to the next, and you draw it again, and you draw another pentagram, and you put the blade through the center of the pentagram, and you invoke Lucifer. Again, whatever that sounds like to you, however you'd like to do that. Make it passionate, make it emotional, feel the words, feel the power, etc. And again, draw the next line in a circle. Your body's moving in a circle. You draw the next pentagram, and you invoke Belial, or whatever name you'd like to invoke. Do it again, go to the next pentagram, final pentagram, invoke Leviathan, or whatever name you'd prefer to evoke. Another quick note is that some people like to use the rabbinical, or rabbinical, however you like to pronounce it, hierarchy. So Azazel, Aal, etc. So that could be another interesting take on it. Hazel, etc. And then, after you've traced all 4 pentagrams, you return back to the starting point. So you basically, if you did like a 180 turn, or 360, you turn around fully 360 and come back to the original point of Satan, or the point that you started at, whatever that was for you. and you put your arms like this. So you go like this. And you invoke/evoke, and again, this is just my example, any name can be used. You invoke Asmodee under Satan. You invoke Astaroth under Lucifer. You invoke Aritan under Belial. And you invoke Magat under Leviathan. Now, again, any names may be chosen as long as they are associated with the quarters, as long as they make sense within the context of fire, earth, water, air, south, west, east, west, then you should be okay, because the concept of the ritual still is intact. It's just names that resonate with you, because the Sinistra tradition is to take something and it's to make it your own, utterly, within the sinister light, within the sinister current. So you do that, and again, the whole main part of that is totally customizable, remember that. But again, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very satisfied with that, and they're going to be totally content to perform it, and I'm happy and I'm glad that you do. Step 5. Vibrate in a very deep, powerful voice. About me flames the adversarial pentagrams. I am of the infernal forces. So this brings you back to the whole ritual is to not only align you with yourself and the fact that even if you believe in forces external to the self, even if you believe in forces outside of the self is what's invoking those forces. The force is what is yourself. It is what is the initiator of that force to come through. Everything you feel is coming through your temple. It's coming through the self of the Sinisterist, and it is coming through the left hand. It's coming through the fact that you are of yourself, and you do not bow to any dogma, no matter who's prescribing it to you, no matter where it comes from. You are the gate, and you are the key. And this part is to recognize that not only are you of your own power, but that man has recognized this force as the adversary forever. And that by aligning yourself with dark, anti-Dominion, anti-conventional, adversarial, infernal forces, you're aligning yourself with true self-validated power. So you do that, and then you end it with basically the first 2 steps of the ritual inversed. So in the beginning of the ritual, you rang the bell as many times as needed to get into a meditative state, and then you performed the Hail my mind, hail my soul, hail my body. This time, for the last step, the 6th step of this ritual, what you're going to do is you're going to inverse that. So, after vibrating about me flames the adversarial pentagram, I am of the infernal forces. You can say pentagrams as well, whatever you prefer. You're going to do that, do that, do that as many times as you'd like, and then you're going to ring the bell as many times as you'd like, until you're satisfied, until you feel like the light has ended, and then it's done. So, I really, really hope that this has showed you not only the process of interpretation in the Sinistra tradition, in the Sinistra Arcana, but I also hope that this gives you an idea of how rituals to the self were performed, and I hope it also gives you a nice rite that you can perform at your altar and get power from it. So thank you very much. This has been Vincent Gaetano. Please have a good day. Thank you very much. Hail Sinistra Arcana.